And so now we're ready to talk about the specific goal that we may want to achieve. And here I would recommend that you take a journal and you start writing down things. So if it is a specific goal that you're after, you develop your goal charter. Much like we have a charter for projects or for initiatives, you have your own goal charter. And what is it that should go in that goal charter? First of all, obviously, what is that specific goal that I want to achieve? How important is it to me on a scale of 1 to 10? What are the inner needs, the innermost personal needs that achieving this goal will satisfy in the core of my personality? What pains will it alleviate? Or what pleasures will it create once I achieve this goal? What core values is my goal aligned with or not aligned with? And we might find some surprises here. How will my life look like once I achieve this goal? Will I get there and say, is this all there is? Is this why I've been toiling so hard to achieve this goal and now I'm still not satisfied and I'm still not happy and I'm still frustrating? What specific hurdles? And this is an interesting one, and you should sit down and actually write very specifically, in my quest to achieve my goal, I will face these and these hurdles, and this is specifically how I anticipate overcoming those hurdles and conquering them. And the last three is, how do I measure my progress? How will I know that I got there? How long will it take me? And what will be the key milestones along the way? And scientists found that there are 4 specific ways why writing things down like this is a lot more helpful than carrying all this stuff in your brain. Number 1, they found that actually many people think with more clarity and focus when they write things down as opposed to just think them in their minds. The second is that, as we'll see a little later in another study, the chances of you achieving your goal are significantly higher if you write things down. The third is this process should be iterative, and it may take a couple of iterations to land with the right answers that you feel comfortable about with regard to those 10 questions. And therefore, if you have it all written down, you can get back to it and work through those iterations. And the last one is, a year later, you may come back to your goal and think to yourself, what was I thinking with this goal? Why did I ever choose this goal as my primary objective in life? And if you write it down in your journal, then obviously it will be there for you to explain, much like a project charter or a business strategy, why was it at the time that your frame of mind was such that you chose to pursue this particular goal. So this is kind of the framework for what it is that you specifically want to achieve as a goal. But there are 2 types of goals that we typically can choose. One is a goal like we just discussed, a career goal, an educational goal, an entrepreneurial goal, longer-term goals. The other type of goal has to do with habits. My goal is, I don't know, reduce the amount of sugar intake in my diet, or eat a more healthy diet all around. So those habitual goals actually call for us to understand the area of habits. What are habits? How do they work inside our brains? And what can we do to change them? So that's what I want to talk about in this segment. What are habits? Scientists define habits as memories. First of all, habits are memories. They are procedural, non-declarative memories. They are automated behaviors, non-conscious behaviors that typically the conscious awareness part of our mind does not have access to those habits. We are aware of them, that we are doing them, but we don't have access to direct them. So, what do we mean by a non-declarative memory? Try to describe to someone how to maintain their balance on a bike if they have never ridden one. And you will not be able to articulate exactly what are the processes that your body goes through, initiated or managed by the vestibular system in our ears to maintain that balance. And what are the processes that you do when you push those pedals? So scientists call those non-declarative memories. And yet those neuronal network sit deep inside our brain in an area called the basal ganglia that is in control of our habits. And we are not aware of 90% of them. But that particular area, which is a very primitive area, and most animals have them, and they are one of the most primitive areas in the human development as well. They manage our habitual behavior. So, how do habits form? And Wolfram Schultz from Cambridge University did in the early 90s a lot of research with macaque monkeys to try to understand how do we form those habits and how do they sink so deeply into our minds. And what he did is he took 3 macaque monkeys like these ones and put them into an experimental chamber with 3 things in that chamber. A digital display, a lever mechanism that the monkeys could press, like this one, and then a reward release mechanism. So that release mechanism would release cranberry juice that the monkeys just loved. And 2 days or 3 days of fiddling with this lever discovered that when they get the yellow signal on the screen and in response they press the lever, this reward release mechanism will release a dose of sweet juice to them. And obviously they loved that sweet juice, so they kept on pressing the lever every time that the yellow signal flashed on the screen. And so soon enough, their brain started telling them, the pleasure centers in the brain started telling them, you like the sweet taste of the cranberry juice. So they conditioned the reward anticipation center of the brain, which is deep down an area called the nucleus accumbens. Next time you see this cue, be sure to press the lever because you will get that reward again. And over time, this becomes a habitual response that has as an objective to create more pleasure. So those dopamine neurons that are excited by the nucleus accumbens center, it's a very small center deep inside our brain, they actually drive our action to behave in that habitual manner. And so working on this, Schultz built this model of cue, behavior, reward, craving. A loop that strengthens and self-feeds itself over time. Every time you see the cue, you do the behavior, you get the reward, you strengthen the craving, you see the cue again, and so on and so forth.
Yuri, is it a bit like Pavlov's dog, except the behavior added in there?
It is.
Type of thing, but you have behavior added.
It is, and Pavlov's dog was in 1928, I believe. So he was one of the first ones that, but what they've done here on top of what Pavlov did is they put electrodes right inside the brains of those monkeys and were able to detect those dopamine neurons being excited every time they had the reward anticipation, every time they saw the cue. So it's not when they tasted the sweet juice, it's when they saw the cue. That drove them, that excited those neurons and drove them to the behavior. And at that point, once it became a habit, they lost control over it. So neuroscientists then thought, what if we take the cue away? Can we kill the habit? Or what even if we take the reward away? Will the habit die? And we know that saying, old habits die hard. But in fact, what neuroscientists found is old habits never die. So they may be buried deep inside your basal ganglia, but those neural connections that make the composite components of the habit never die. Much like, even if you hadn't ridden your bike for 20 years, you get on your bike within a couple of minutes, you're riding it again and you're not falling off. Those behaviors and procedural memories are stored so deep inside our brain that no external stimuli or the lack thereof can kill them. But what we can do is bypass them. We can bypass our habits. So let's take an example. We've been promoted to the next level up, back-to-back meetings, 7 in the morning to 7 at night, a boss that is very demanding and very hard driving, not fun to work with, a toxic political environment in the office, and this had been going on ever since you've been promoted. It's a year or more now. And this, at long last, 8 p.m., you get home, your beautiful home that you've been able to afford now based on your highly esteemed position, but you're so stressed out, you can't wait to step into your living room. And there on the server is your favorite bottle. And of course, you pour yourself a glass and you drop into the lazy boy and you relax. After a couple of minutes, relaxation and bliss descends upon you. But what you've been noticing lately is that one glass is no longer enough and you need a second one. And your brain is beginning to tell you that, hey, this relaxation, your body really likes it. So next time you see that cue, namely the bottle on the server, have another one of these because it does good for you. And before we know it, our friend Jim here has gotten into a habit of 3 glasses is not enough anymore, stopped going to the gym, started eating unhealthily, put on 25 pounds. The last visit to the doctor's office with a stress test started bringing some worrisome signals. And then he got to a point where he said, you know what, my life is drifting out of my control. I need to do something about it. So what can he do, knowing what we know about habits? And this is by now a very well-entrenched habit. What can we do? So we cannot kill the habit. It's always there. Much like Seymour Hoffman, 20 years he didn't touch drugs. And then some cue triggered the behavior again, and he very quickly deteriorated right back into it, and then had an overdose and died. The habit was always there. So what can we do? How can we bypass? So one day, our friend Jim went to the store, got himself a new gym bag, and right in the morning, when his willpower is still strong and fresh, he put the gym bag on the passenger seat in his car, program the GPS to take him directly to the gym at the end of the workday, so he will not have to do any thinking. Comes 6, 7 o'clock, he gets into his car, and the GPS takes him to the gym without him actually having to do much. Because by that time, his willpower is all by diminished and depleted completely. But he programmed the system to go there, right to the gym. And then he works out for a couple of hours, rewarded himself with a nice massage at the end of the gym. And after a while, he started to think, or his body started to think, you know what, I'm beginning to like this. I'm beginning to like the sense of the endorphins, morphine-like substances that our brains produce when we exercise intensely. I'm beginning to like that feeling. I'm beginning definitely to like the massage and the hands that are rubbing my back. And so gradually, he's developing a new craving for this new behavior. And a couple of months later, he threw away the last bottle, and this new behavior had taken root. But he still had to remember very carefully, don't ever tempt yourself with the same cues, because the old behavior, the old habit will come back in a flash. So be very careful, A, to avoid those cues, or replace them with better cues, and if you can, replace the reward, the old reward, with a new reward, like this one, that is at least as strong and positive, if not even more. And in this case, he was able to do it. So, if you want to overcome habits, first of all, don't try to fight them, because you cannot kill them. But you can bypass them by finding a new cue, avoiding the old cues at all cost. Don't tempt yourself to drive near the bar, your favorite bar, or to go have a chat with your drinking buddy, because before you know it, and I'm not talking about us, but before we know it, we'll be back there in our old behavior. So that is our habit control, if you like, or habit bypassing intervention that neuroscientists found that actually we can take hold of and take control of and conquer.